So what I've done here is just kind of drawn out where I think I want to put my bowls. And what I've done is I've avoided the major crack right here and a couple of other cracks by just having that be between the two bowls. Now, usually I'd divide it long ways for the biggest bowl possible, but since the center of the tree is right here on the log, then that's kind of awkward, and I feel like the bowl on this side would just crack and split apart. So what I've done is just divided it this way, and I've drawn that out with the Sharpie to show you. Now I want to joint this edge so that I can cut these lines on the bandsaw. Now we want to get a flatter edge right here, so I'm just going to joint that down, and that's in that plane with our bowls. You can see here that I have the blade lined up with the mark on the top of this bowl right here that I want to cut. So now I can make this cut and I'll have my semicircle bowl blank. Now that I got this side right here flat, it's pretty easy just to take this angle and push it against the fence and then cut this middle part out that has all the cracks in it. So I want two parallel flat edges on these, so what I'm going to do now is cut a little bitty flat edge right there, and what I'm going to do is just use this flat face to reference against the fence, and then just keep it tight against the fence so that I create a small parallel face right there. So now I want to find the center of these blanks so I know where to drill the hole for the wormwood screw and where the center of my circle is going to be. So I'm just going to connect the edges for that. That's the center of that blank. And that's the center of that blank. Now I'm going to punch the centers. So I've measured the distance between the center point and the edge, and on both bowls it's pretty close to 3.28, so that's what the radius of my circle cutting jig is going to be. Now I'm a super simple circle cutting jig on the bandsaw. Basically how it works is you slide it, a piece spins on a nail, and that nail's in here right now. But in this case, I want my nail to be 3 1/4 away from the blade. It just so happens I already have one of those in there. I've got my nail right here to be 3.25 from the blade, and that'll give me my radius of the circle. So what I'm going to do is line that nail up with the center of the blank, and then hammer that down. Now that I have both of my blanks in a circle, I can drill the hole for the wormwood screw in the drill press, and I'll explain what the wormwood screw is in just a second. So this is the wormwood screw, and basically what it does is this goes into the chuck, this goes into the bowl, and then it will spin it. So what you want to do is find a drill bit that will just drill out that solid part so that the threads will bite into the wood. And that's what I'm just doing here. If you can see that on the picture, the drill bit lines up with the middle of the threads. So now I'm just gonna drill that depth. Actually, so now I'm just gonna go drill a little bit deeper than that into my bowl, and that'll end up being the inside of the bowl, so you won't actually be able to see like any kind of hole whenever you're done. Thread it until it's even with these teeth, right? I mean, even with the jaws of the chuck is when I know I have it on all the way, and that's not going anywhere. So now I can begin turning. So I'm just gonna start out using the roughing gouge, and for speed, I'm just going about as fast as I can without it shaking the lathe too much. I got it turned pretty rough here, and so what I want to do now is clean it up with the skew chisel, which I'm about to sharpen. So now I got this relatively clean to the point where it just needs to be sanded, and I want to make this bottom, I want to put a tenon in there, and I'm going to actually bring it up some so it'll be a little bit bigger. I think that tenon is deep enough. I'm going to take it out and put it in the chuck. Well, you can see here that the structural integrity of the mortise did not hold up, and it just slung it off when too much pressure was here. So I think though I still have my hole for the wormwood screw. So I think I'm going to try to put the wormwood screw back on and then return the mortise. So the hole for my wormwood screw doesn't go deep enough because I turned some of that out, so it's not going to fit back on the lathe. Time for bowl number 2. So now I want to show you the difference between an aggressive cut and a non-aggressive cut. Now towards the near to the end of your passes on the bowl, you want to make the very least aggressive cut. And now an aggressive cut, the chisel would be about 90 degrees to the edge of the bowl like that, and your blade rest would probably be lower than it is on this one right here. So now when you can raise your blade rest up to about where I have it here and tilt your chisel down a little bit like that, so that the grind on the chisel nearly matches the angle of the bowl where it meets it. Now I'm more optimistic about the strength of the mortise on this one because the base is much larger, which means it'll have more area around the edge to grip it. This bowl is now ready to be scraped and sanded.